in the last week alone, like not even 1 week. So we started seeing headlines Friday morning. This first one came out. Pulte teases tech investments by Fannie and Freddie. Um, what this would effectively do, obviously, we've got an AI bubble. Um, Bubble itself doesn't mean it's malinvestment or not. We won't know until we know, right? But this is like, all right, the technology wave has kind of captured investors' attention. We're basically betting it all on red, to put it in the roulette wheel analogy, doing massive data center build out, all of that. Like essentially the monetary system, the credit framework, the dynamic is such that we both have to plow capital into this investment just for the perpetuance or perpetuation of the system itself, right? You need more monetary creation, which means more projects to be invested in. So you need demand for financing. Obviously, the big tech in this AI trend is overwhelmingly the strongest narrative that's captured attention from, I guess, tech executive, financiers, et cetera, to say, hey, this is where we need to allocate society's resources. Let's go work on this, right? But it's also reached such a point where the numbers are so massive that to keep this thing going, um, just in terms of the capital expenditures, it's going to take an increasingly large share of the real savings in the economy to even let this thing play out. So we're at the point where, all right, the banking system doesn't want to touch this on its own because it's so high risk and they don't want to bet it all on this one thing. They would much rather see other players in society absorb that risk, just because the nature of the risk, the fractional reserve banking system, it's actually not built to handle speculative investment like on these technology waves. Similar things, railroads, radios, telegraphs,
Yeah, Matt
personal
actually did a really good
computers,
episode on
internet.
this last week to, just
Yep.
to call that out for folks. Watch that one. Matt really goes into kind of historical examples of seeing similar
Yep.
things in this space.
So you see, like the amount of capital required to see this bubble through would quickly dwarf what's available in the banking system. And all of the developments we've been seeing for like the last 6 months, where related parties will engage with each other on equity-based financing schemes. We can go through the deals. We talk about them every week. AMD and OpenAI, Oracle, OpenAI, everybody on OpenAI, right? Um, that one's running on, borrowed time at this point. And what you need to do to keep this thing rolling is you need more balance sheet capacity. This is where Bill Pulte comes in. Fannie and Freddie balance sheets, they are massive, right? They serve a specific purpose. Uh, get American, you know, homeowners or American, what do you call them, just American workers into a long-term mortgage at subsidized interest rates, to enable, economic, value creation over 15, 30-year time spans. Those balance sheets exist for exactly that reason. But it's truly massive GSE. Like we talk about other countries, China, et cetera, being GSE operated. These are our two largest GSEs. You know, Federal Home Loan Banks, uh, ag credit, all of that. Those might be, in that same territory, but nothing comes close to agency mortgages, that entire industry and what it does for the U.S. economy. So to use those balance sheets to kind of see the tech investment through, I mean, I don't know, I won't pass judgment, but we have a big picture sense of what's going on here. You've also got this process where Fannie and Freddie themselves have to go through their own transformation into this new era. Maybe that does involve tech. Maybe it does involve, Bitcoin, stable coins, crypto, all of that stuff. Despite my misgivings about stable coins and crypto. Cameron and I have done a good job documenting, I think, over the course of prior episodes of the weekly roundup. But bringing in the tech investments into Fannie and Freddie, that's kind of an acknowledgement on both sides. Both Fannie and Freddie um, have a problem that they need solved, which is they need to build up more equity capital so that they can IPO themselves and revitalize or exit conservatorship with more capacity to fund mortgage borrowings because the capital market capacity just doesn't exist right now to get the young Americans, late millennials, Gen Z, and then Gen Alphas who will be coming just right around the corner into a home mortgage and keep this system humming along. Um, so like from one angle, it could solve a couple of problems. Is it the best approach? I don't know. There's pros and cons, as there are with anything. Now, from the tech bubble standpoint, they've clearly hitched the entire U.S. economy, Western economy. Like they've bet it all on the AI kind of technology ultimately playing out. I think in hindsight, the way these work, we talked about this last week, what you usually see is an overbuild. Um, you eventually realize the private industry builds up, the Tower of Babel, just one floor too high, too much capacity, the thing collapses upon itself. But then in the aftermath, that overbuilding capacity um, sets the stage for that same technology to actually complete its destiny and grow into its potential on a timeline that is actually longer than what the initial speculators thought. So, an
Right.
example here, um, internet, the tech bubble, the dot-com bubble of the late 90s, early 2000s. What you saw going on as, Yahoo and, those companies were capturing massive attention. Um, in the background, you saw firms like Enron, WorldCom, Global Crossing, rapidly building out the infrastructure layer, the CapEx, laying fiber optic cable across the US, like this whole phenomenon of dark cable, right? It was just tons of fiber optic cable purchased, but they actually way overbuilt because the demand didn't keep up with the level of investment of supply. All that cable sits dark for a while before the bandwidth was actually there to fill up that capacity. But what we saw after the collapse of Enron 2001, you go into like a little dark age. But then by the mid 2000s, you saw like phenomena creeping up like social media, Facebook launches, MySpace. People are starting to post videos online, all of that stuff. YouTube shows up in I want to say 2005 is where
About
it
that, yeah.
first appeared, and Google acquired it within its first couple of years. Then you start to see the move towards streaming, all of that. And by the mid 2010s, fully a decade later, this thing that the initial speculative bubble had seen and gotten way over its skis about in terms of level of excitement relative to actual reality and demand showing up. Um, those two things got way out of whack, in the late 90s dot-com bubble and then ultimately the 2001 collapse. But they were ultimately proven right, 10 years later. That same thing is highly likely, like that same situation is highly likely to how this is going to evolve with the data center build out, all of that. So throwing the public-private partnerships, the agency GSEs, putting that balance sheet at risk right now, probably not the best idea, just because the downside is so massive. Could actually worsen the public deficit situation if we make a timing mistake here. But in the long run, maybe this could work out. So, all right, that's one thing. So you're seeing right now, um, to just put that one aside now, Fannie Freddie balance sheets for tech investment. Boom. You also had other policy ideas floated here. They're just coming out. It's almost like they're just talking and live stream, or just free flowing fireside chat. Bill Pulte, what can we do here to fix this housing problem, which is very quickly becoming a pressing issue in the U.S. economy? Oh, 50-year mortgages. Let's throw that trial balloon out. Saturday morning, Sunday, let's see the Twitter discussion, what everybody thinks about it. Kind of universally tanked right now. Moving from a 30-year to a 50-year mortgage is not going to do much to solve the problem. All right. Cameron mentioned an auto loan 30-year. Yeah, that's getting turned out. That's a terrible idea. Portable mortgages that came out, floated in discussion this week. Okay, all right, that one, there's some positive reception too. What it really is saying to me though is like it's signaling uh, the five alarm fire that's going on right now in the U.S. housing finance kind of subsector of the overall capital markets. It's become a pressing issue. Something needs to be done here, and right now we're just throwing our own policy alternatives to see just throw it all at the wall, throw the kitchen sink at it, and see what sticks is kind of the approach right now.
Yep. And they know that they really don't want to devalue home prices since so many people's retirements, just total net worth is wrapped up in that. So the
Yep.
only way then to try to find ways to help people into homes is really elongating the time that they need to make payments and things like that.
Yeah.
So
Good point. Yeah, most people like their savings are actually tied up in the value of their house, and as you see, um, just the wave of late stage boomers in retirement, like either selling their home to fund life at a nursing home in their late years, or just sell your house, downsize to another, etc. Yeah, someone would have to take a hit, right? So in terms of economics, I think the term is Pareto efficient, right? Can your policy improve the outcomes across the board for everybody without harming anybody? Then there's free lunch available in the policy space, and you should push the frontier to make if you're making even one person better off without harming anybody else. It's like, all right, push that boundary. Then you've taken ground. It's complicated here, right? Because any alternative, like there's no free lunch. Like if you let housing prices fall, that's going to benefit younger Americans at the expense of older. If you make these tech investments, same thing. Someone is harmed, someone's hurt. You're also adding risk into this overall system, right? So yeah, we're at a point where there's no free lunch, there's no easy options, which, once you're painted into that corner, it means something big probably is going to happen in terms of like the market forces naturally taking hold and guiding the system towards a new equilibrium, and that process can be very volatile, very very disruptive. And I think that's why, to get back to that first kind of theme we went over at the beginning, if you're a high profile investor, maybe you see this coming, you're just like, step away. This is my time to step back. Let it all sort itself out, and I'll come in later if I have the timeline. If I'm a certain age where I can come back. Or if you're not, maybe, obviously Warren Buffett timeline is not there. Ray Dalio probably as well. I think he's late 60s, maybe 70s. He probably wants to just enjoy retirement at this point. Um, Once he exits stage, I don't see that coming back. But other figures, yeah, Michael Burry, he's late 50s, and this is where it talks about some pending announcement on November 25th. Yeah, there's probably another act remaining, but it just tells you there's something in front of us, and the people who are most connected um, and at the highest end of the capital markets and investing field are giving you signal by their headline announcements in the last week.